Welcome to another edition of the Civ Battle Royale. My name is Dawkinzz, and this is episode 47, Knockout Rounds. The cylinder enters a new age as civs take to the skies, and everybody will feel the consequences. Starting on turn 336, let's get right into this. Welcome everyone again to the 47th CBRX, this time narrated for the first time by not one but two narrators. We are Tiny Tim and the Hand of Fate. Tiny Tim here to say I have been following the Battle Royale since its Mark 1 days, back before the subreddit was created, and have mostly been lurking since, so you could say I'm quite the old geezer. For the Hand of Fate, they only discovered it during the big Mark II hiatus, but have been following it ever since. Tiny Tim and I are housemates, so we thought it would be nice to do this narration together. How nice. Beware the thundering steps. Khan's conquest has only just begun. For the intro OC, we have this piece of art. It never ceases to amaze me how many talented artists we have on the sub. As our first map, we have the current state of the cylinder projected on the old pre-E cylinder, showing how absolutely humongous the Kazakhs are and how border-gored Europe is again. And the tile-accurate map. Keep it handy, though it might change. And here we see the absolute and definitive number one of this game, the Kazakhs. Their huge land empire seems uncontestable, so I don't see this changing soon. Let's get into it. We immediately see the result of the peace treaty between Uruguay and Venezuela. As you can see, they had to give up almost all of their cities except for their capital, and if you squint at the mini-map, some small islands in the Pacific. Yeah, that's gotta hurt. They are definitely out of the running now. I haven't seen Uruguay take a bite out of something like this since Suarez. The Zimbabwean fleet continues its brutal pillaging of the subcontinent, but Maratha seems to have enough outdated land units to keep this fight up for a few turns. I wouldn't bet on it though. Oh my, our boys in yellow go for a daring move. They declare on both the Goths and Sami, again on the offense here in Europe. In this theater, the Sami outnumber the Moors, though they are outdated. Well, that all depends how fast they can get their technologically superior navy through the channel. The Goth situation seems to be less problematic as their army is not even that outdated, and the Moors will have a hard time getting units to the front as Prussia is blocking the way. With Sangmeshwar fallen, all Shivaji's last remaining coastal cities have fallen. Their other two cities seem to be safe for now as Zimbabwe forgot to bring a landing force. And don't forget the citadels. There is some excellent defense there. I can see 6 of them connected. Good luck getting through that. Australia seems to go for the chin burger here between two Kazakh buns. Yang Zhang is belligerently drunk, yelling at the Australian ships while his advisors desperately try to keep him down. But it didn't seem to matter much, for Geelong now flies the Australian colors once again, and Ying Zhang is sent off to a detox re-education camp, starting off aggressively against the Shia and Canton pre-endgame, and later on proving they were China #1 by defeating the Qing and kicking Shikoku out of Japan. We had high hopes for them coming into endgame, but they were quickly overpowered by the Kazakhs and Australia. F. The last glimpse of Canton in this tournament, who have just been promoted to #1 China, has just been placed like an American football that is about to be kicked. But it is unclear who will be doing the holding and who is doing the punting. Well, it seems like you were wrong, Tiny Tim. Maratha has just given up their inland city in a peace deal. I mean, they were going to lose it anyway as their army was just evaporated and Zimbabwe actually brought in some units. Also, they just became the new India with even less tiles. The Manx take back their city on the Shetlands, and the Moors seem to be inactive on this front, but this might just be the silence before the storm. It seemed Khan had done the kicking and scored. That's a wrap for Canton in endgame. They were a magnificent civ with a wonderful color scheme. Unfortunately, their position meant that they would always be contained by their stronger neighbors. Rip number 1 China. You did get the first kill though. F. And that makes 2 kills so far. The Meiji declare on the Yupik, but they will have to go through Shikoku citadels before they get to the kill. Speaking of citadels, the Meiji have excellently defended their coast with some strategic citadels against a possible landing force. The Pacific Derby goes on full once again. Who will come out on top this time? Australia looks quite prepared in this slide. You seem to be right. Hawk starts off good as he manages to retake Coffs Harbor, but Uruguay's navy is getting closer now. But Lavalleja has sent some boats up north to conquer Australian Shikoku. The Australian Navy has to go for the rebound here and take that back. And if they don't, the entire Pacific will soon be different shades of blue. And here we see my personal list of literate people. My God, does Hiawatha read a lot of books, and Métis better watch out. Also, a lot of ideologies can be seen in the sidebar. BC informed me that everyone has gone autocracy except Zimbabwe, who have order. Ionodot seems to have flipped to and fro to the Sami. It's unclear whether the Manx or the Moors are responsible for this. But they have to get rid of those archers if they ever want to be taken seriously, or their cities will be taken seriously. This is not looking good. Australia's fleet has disappeared and several cities are damaged. This has the potential to become a much bigger problem for Australia than I thought. Back at Citadel City, now with 2 extra citadels, India has declared that they would like their capital back. This is rather awkward as Maratha has made it theirs. Bayanang goes in for the kill and declares war on the city-state of Nepal. This could very well be it for Nepal. The Toungoo army has a clear shot of Pokhara. Mountains won't save them this time. Prepare your Fs. All of Australia's holdings in the northern Pacific are gone now, and their fleet is no more. And the minimap seems to indicate that Uruguay has control again over their mainland Australian holdings. That must hurt. Australia is down, and I wonder if they can get up again. They must peace out ASAP, and if they don't, they will probably lose all of their coastal cities. As the Manx peace out with the Sami, they immediately get attacked by the Iroquois, who have a far superior navy in the Atlantic. Torpedoes will probably not be very healthy for the Manx's wood-based navy. Wollongong, the command center of Australia's navy, is still holding out against all odds. Which navy, though? I count more Marathan ships than Australian ones, and they don't even have a coastal city. The Iroquois prove themselves as Douglas Falls, and we get a good glimpse of the sheer size of their navy, which is also very advanced. I'm more concerned about that squadron of planes stationed in southern Greenland. As Ying Zhang is dragged out of the smoldering rubbles of Geelong, he is greeted by Uruguayan soldiers. Taking pity on the old trembling man, they offer him a bottle of fine Caribbean rum, which he gladly accepts. Uruguay retakes Wollongong, but Hawks manages to retake Brisbane, so maybe they can salvage something from this disaster. An unseen attack on Königsberg seems to have fizzled out as no damage units can be seen, but the Moors did manage to get their army through the channel and are now on their way to Scandinavia. The Manx lose their capital to the Iroquois, who have also parked their air force in Ireland, while the Moors have made landfall into Norway, encountering 3 generations of archery units, none of which is even close to the Moors' technological level. Pokhara holds on longer than expected, but is now almost completely surrounded. Nepal is not long for this world. We heard that story before, but they're still hanging on. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Hiawatha has built Pena National Palace, which increases their city's defenses, much like the Red Fort. And the Moors just built Prora, meaning they unlocked flight. This can become quite the problem for the Sami, as home-baked cookies don't do much against bombers. Wagga Wagga has fallen to the Uruguayan Navy, but Australia has enough land units in the vicinity to flip it back. But their largest city, Sydney, is now in the deep red. As expected, Abd ar-Rahman III takes full advantage of his technological superiority and bombs the Baltic coastal cities into the red. They're even sporting aircraft carriers. Australia makes peace with Uruguay, but at the cost of half of their empire. Like there was much left of it anyway. But at least they're not dead. Well, I didn't know it was actually possible, but they are actually dead. After a good start in endgame, Nepal quickly returned to their original turtle self. Though the mountains kept them alive for a long time, the much bigger and more advanced army of the Tongu could not be stopped. You outlived most of your direct neighbors, which is an amazing feat. F. This now marks 3 kills this episode. The Moors exert their dominance by taking the Baltic cities of Königsberg and Hedeby. The Goths might flip back Königsberg, though. The Sami do not seem to stand a chance anymore, as the Moors now have battleships and Great War infantry, fighting their carracks and archers. Archers, for God's sake. After an unexpectedly good run, the Manx finally sniff it. Together with the Vikings, they killed the Scots and even managed to shortly colonize America, only to be thwarted by the Vikings and the Iroquois, the latter being responsible for their eventual demise. F. And that marks 4 deaths this episode. Quadra kill. Successfully deploying aircraft carriers, the Moors have managed to take Arjepolove and the former Viking capital of Nidaros. The tech disparity is really hampering the Sami here. A shot of the Iroquois Corps reveals the terrifying monster that lurks in the former Canadian woods. Almost carpeted, 21 planes, and a huge technological advantage over their close neighbors. And don't forget that they are meanwhile building every wonder possible, like the Cristo Redentor. Not that it would make much use, but it shows that they have production to spare, and have reached plastics. Now I wonder, would the Cristo Redentor be of Jesus, or a big turtle, according to their religion? The Moors take even more, bombing all other cities but the capital into the black. But the Sami finally have the Cuirassier, so maybe they finally are teching up. The Sami got lucky here, they're not dead. But this peace grants the Moors valuable time to recarpet against the Blue Menace. Maybe they will now be able to contain them even. Fire in the hole! The Iroquois army now has anti-air guns, modern infantry, and several planes, already using them to half the health of 2 Métis cities. And Rial still has riflemen. Those are almost twice as weak as modern infantry. That's like modern infantry versus giant death robots. Imagine the slaughter on that battlefield. Yes, imagine. Up north, it looks a bit more even. Still, Hiawatha's air fleet might prove detrimental. Maybe if they take Fort Pitt quickly, they can eliminate a big chunk of those planes. The Tongu join the dog pile. I don't think Maratha has long to live. And those citadels, there's now a continuous line of 16 citadels supplemented with forts. Maginot Line 2.0. Hiawatha deploys paratroopers, takes La Paix Inde, and damages a lot of Métis cities and units. I think the Métis should throw in the towel or they can do nothing but lose. Nukes. Hiawatha completes the Manhattan Project as the current owner of Manhattan, so that makes total sense. Also, note the artillery floating around in the Gulf next to... is that a trireme? Zimbabwe joins the coalition and immediately kills the Maratha. Having an average run both pre- and post-endgame, they were mostly hampered by their melee-itis, which prevented them from killing any of their neighbors. This meant they had no expansion options in endgame. F. A pentakill! 5 kills in 1 episode, folks. In a war-torn Europe, the Moors are now the undisputed #1, and the Uruguayans change party again. Maybe now they'll upgrade those triremes in the Baltic. The Iroquois eliminate Border Gore at the cost of Métis dignity. Tech advantage really is the biggest theme of this episode. Remember, the relative difference between infantry and riflemen is almost as big as the relative difference between infantry and giant death robots. Yeah, we said that before. I wonder if that will ever come up again in the future. Hiawatha drops in a paratrooper to take the Métis capital. A daring but effective move, but it'll probably flip back. By taking Fish Creek, the Iroquois now threaten the coastal cities of Frenchman's Butte, Lac La Biche, and most importantly, Prince Albert. Who made the civs so kinky? Having earlier knocked out the rest of the Yupik's capitals, Shikoku is now finishing the job. It's like a lone goalie having to defend against an entire opposing team. And Sevac falls almost immediately, bringing an end to Abagnoc's run, which was longer than expected. Their most memorable moments were their snipes of the Aztecs and Qing. They also won that war against the Métis that one time. Is this a
sextuple kill?
And this is what happens when you rack up warmonger penalties. The struggle for the Pacific begins. The question is whether Uruguay will expand their Pacific Empire, or will the Kazakhs start their own? Don't forget Dark Horse Iroquois after they've taken all the Métis coastal cities. It looks to be an even fight on the ground, but in the air it's a totally different story. I expect Shikoku to be completely decimated from this war. The Métis keep losing more units and cities to the Iroquois menace. The Nubian Knights, who were witness to last part's peace deal, are looking horrified as they evaluate the frozen north. The Kazakhs push on slowly as they take Yuzuki. They really need to put in more effort if they want to make significant gains from this war, though. You mean like this? The Kazakhs push even further into Shikokan lands. I don't know how long they can last. The Métis are left impotent as their southern cities are cut off from the rest of their empire, or rather, what's left of it. This is a slaughter. The Kazakhs push on as they take Dogo and bring the Shikoku capital into the red. That artillery should come in handy in this mountainous terrain. Are we witnessing Order 66 or something? All of a sudden it was like a snap and everybody went buck wild. The Kazakhs, Uruguay, the Iroquois, the Moors, all of them just really started obliterating everyone around them. So maybe the Emperor's behind it. I don't know. As expected, the Kazakhs take more cities as the Shikokuan army is getting smaller and smaller. Meanwhile, we haven't seen anything from Pacific Theater as it seems that Uruguay isn't doing anything. The Moors successfully use paratroopers to take the Gothic city of Oeum, reducing them to a city-state. I really hope the Moors eat Prussia next because I can't stand this border war anymore. It seems Hiawatha has managed to absorb Geronimo's essence and weaponized it, and using it they've managed to jerk Prince Albert back and forth. As we arrive at the last and nicest slide, Wood Mountain remains too hard to take for the Iroquois. Well guys, thanks for watching this record-breaking part. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, because we really did. And yeah, we came to an end. This episode has been crazy. I want to see Order 66 memes everywhere or something like that, because we got some new contenders in the house and people are going crazy. But anyway, my name is Dawkinzz. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Throw a comment below. You know, smash that mother effing subscribe button or whatever those YouTubers say these days. I'm old. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.